Afghanistan may be at peace, but anyone leaving Kabul is advised to take protection.
How many extra magazines? One?
Our supplies for the trip include assault rifles, grenade launchers, pistols and machine guns.
Needs more bullets.
Yeah, we have need to.
Can you give us a rundown, Jack, how many guys we have, what sort of weapons they have to protect us?
Well, we've got 12 guys with Kalashnikovs, RPGs, 6 extra rockets, and a PK machine gun.
Should be enough?
Should be enough.
Okay.
But where I go to war, we bring a lot of bullets. Here. Load up the rest of those links.
Our convoy leader is a former Special Forces soldier who goes by the name of Jack.
We don't have time for another car. We are leaving right now. It's not for any arguments.
He's a civilian advisor to the Afghan military. Among his many projects is setting up a protection force for aid workers and journalists.
I think we could probably take on about 50 Taliban, you know, as long as they have good direction on what to do.
Our journey will be to the eastern city of Jalalabad, along the main route to Pakistan. It's considered one of the most dangerous in the country, especially for Westerners. The war is now technically over, but outside Kabul it's still not clear exactly who's in control, who they serve, and what they might do. Travellers put their faith in God and the gun. Last November, 4 journalists were murdered on this narrow strip of road about 2 hours' drive from Kabul.
We saw them lined up.
19-year-old Maktabadin was in the same convoy in the car behind them. When he last saw them, they were already doomed.
Yeah. They all standing like in a row like this. And Mary, she went to these thieves, shaking hand, or just saying hello. He threw a stone on her chest. Yep. She bent it. When she bent it, she shoot with the rifle on her head.
They hit the rifle butt on her head.
Yeah. And she threw down. When she law, I don't know what's going on. We escaped at this time.
You drove off and escaped?
Yeah.
Today, a small memorial to the journalists stands at the hotel in Jalalabad where they spent their last night. Here, as in the rest of Afghanistan, the gun still rules. We've come here to meet one of the new generation of leaders.
Hey, Tashakur.
Sami Ali is 22 and commands 600 men. The Taliban drove his family from power, but thanks to US airstrikes, they've resumed their position as the local strongmen. He claims to look forward to the day when he can put away his gun.
Ali Bama ar mardam me gaya ek ja baro dega ja baro London baro ek ja dega ja ma megam na mera watan khod ma as ke dai jab kashtam sham ej gab nes ha
He said I want to make a business.
tijarat kuni mi ja khobas.
But there's no sign his men are preparing to become civilians. If anything, they're being rearmed. Half his guards have just received brand new uniforms and boots from the US Army. All of them have new state-of-the-art weapons, most of those from Iran. Both Iran and America are competing for the allegiance of the post-Taliban rulers, funneling money and weapons directly to commanders or through their factions in Kabul.
Bama marbut nadar ki as kodam ja girta hai na girta hu kalana dega khodesh me bama
Got it. We don't know about it.
Right.
bama hu arrakam ihdayat kad amutu mekane
As they direct us.
Sami has not become a commander because of military skill, but because of his family.
How are you?
Good.
His uncle, Hazrat Ali, is one of the main commanders between the Pakistan border and the outskirts of Kabul. The area is very much his personal fiefdom. Over a cup of tea, he told us the world should give generously to help it.
شفاخانه که آدم برای به ترمیم در اتاقخانه‌ای که در تا 15 مردم به خود که استراحت میکنن ما رفتم از زندان دروازه اتاقای شکشتکی آشداراش امیر خب دست هر دی ششتن
But it seems there's always plenty of money for guns and Land Cruisers. So these are new cars?
Yeah.
Outside their house are two top-of-the-range Toyota four-wheel drives, just flown in from Dubai at a cost of $100,000. The seats are still covered with plastic. Sami decides to take us all for a spin, an entourage of 5 cars following. This is a desperately poor country, ravaged by 7 years of drought and 2 decades of war. But commanders can always exact tribute from their subjects or from foreign powers. Having armed soldiers means power, money and respect. Sami took us to his family village to show how the Taliban tried to take it all away.
यहाँ पर ये तो खाना जोड़ करता बुद्धि कहते आज खारिज नक्शा और बुद्धि खुलश खराब करता ये
The Taliban swept away the old feudal order and its warlords. Now the old leaders and their families are reclaiming the country for themselves. These are some of the other men who now rule Afghanistan. They're the triumphant commanders and party bosses who opposed or recently split from the fundamentalist Taliban. They're nominally loyal to the UN-installed Premier Hamid Karzai, but they control political movements that have always fought for power with bullets. Just don't call them warlords.
Be sure that warlordism is over in Afghanistan. You may not see the signs, ma'am, but it's over. And we'll make sure that it's over. And there too, it's a good question you ask, we'll have the help of the United States to do that.
Hamid Karzai is the public face of the interim administration and a public relations dream. English-speaking, articulate and modern, he gives the impression Afghanistan has turned its back on the old ways of violence and extremism. He's just what Afghanistan needs to keep the money flowing in.
In keeping with American tradition, as the collection plate is passed, the United States will make a significant contribution.
For many in the West, this has been a simple battle between good and evil. The Northern Alliance, America's proxy in its crusade against terror.
Do you want to write Long Life Mujahideen?
Yes, good.
We first met Jack in the closing stages of the war at the Al-Qaeda stronghold of Tora Bora.
They had NYPD and New York Fire Department had patches made, their shoulder patches. They had like thousands of them made, and they put on them, they had embroidered and written on them the names of all the victims. They sent them over here for the Special Forces guys to leave as calling cards for Al-Qaeda.
Is it a good feeling doing something against the people that did what they did to the World Trade Center?
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt about it. From New York, you know, some of my buddies were in there.
Like many Special Forces veterans, Jack came out of retirement to be part of the US campaign. He's stayed on to help train Northern Alliance soldiers to fight any remnants of the enemy.
Hi, where's my gun? This is like only the start. We got to train them and feed them, or Al-Qaeda will come back in. So we're looking for a fight again. Yeah, they're coming back.
Really?
I think so. You don't think they're going to run this fast and not come back and try to disturb this country again?
Some of the men in charge of rebuilding seem little different from the fanatics they've replaced. Abdul Rasul Sayyaf is a Northern Alliance power broker and a self-confessed fundamentalist. Like many figures in the new regime, he insists Afghanistan must continue with strict Islamic law, including stoning and amputation.
All of them wants to live under the umbrella of Islamic law. Therefore, there is no chance for any law, for any constitution except Islam.
Welcome. Nice to meet you, Eric.
Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Saif is revered by Muslim extremists around the world. The Islamic terrorist group in the Philippines, Abu Sayyaf, is named after him.
We stand against the Red Army. All the human beings were proud of our struggle in that time.
But Sayyaf's war continued long after the Soviets left. His faction fought rival Mujahideen for control of the central government during a 4-year civil war. Sayyaf's forces shelled entire suburbs, killing countless civilians. Amnesty International accuses his men of widespread torture and murder. He denies all the charges. Despite his armed militia and his fleet of Toyota Land Cruisers, he insists he's a man of peace.
I prefer to be professor, lecturer in the university than to be a soldier in the bunker. When we have a peaceful life, I will go back to the university.
The new government is a coalition of these once warring factions, with some émigré Democrats tacked on. Sayyaf's party, Islamic Union, has 2 ministries, but he's demanding more seats when a tribal council meets in June to appoint a new parliament.
For the favor and for the interests of the nation, for the favor of the peace, we told, okay, we should cooperate with this government, and we do hope that these things will be repaired.
The new authorities have removed some of the excesses of the Taliban's rule. Music can once again be played, girls can go to school. Some jobs can be filled by women. But it continues to be a society dominated by rigid Islam and the constant threat of violence. Almost every woman still wears the head-to-toe veil called the burqa. These women are school teachers, desperate to go back to work. Some fear the consequences of showing their faces now the old leaders have returned.
میشه که تیزاب بزنن در ما، میشه که اذیت شویم. به این خاطر ما چادری پس نکردیم.
الکل اگه زیر تاثیر رفته دیگه میترسه از اول
دورانی که مجاهدین آمده بود خاطره خراب کل داره. به اون حساب مردم میخواهد که نه بیادره که زمون دوری دیگه ما خاطره خراب داریم. زنها بی‌حیثیت و بی‌آبرو شده بودن در دوران مجاهدین که آمده بودن. به اون خاطر ما چادری در روی ما که ما بی‌حیثیت و بی‌آبرو نشیم. ترون نشه دخترای ما و ما زنا ترون میشدیم. به اون حساب ما روی خدا تالش نمیکنیم. امون تاس دل ماست که اگر ما روی لچویم پشت ما گرفتن نشه موتر نبیم و ما رو ترون نکنم.
Sayyaf claims women want to keep the burqa.
They like this. They like this. They see their honor in this. They see their dignity in this. And they have chosen this for them, for themselves. If you go to a society where Islamic law is implemented, you will see the women, they have comfortable life when they are not tired like other societies. They are not bothered like other societies. If you ask here the people, the women are so happy, so satisfied.
Afghans have learned to have low expectations of the men who lead them. Many dream of freedom, but most would settle for peace. We continued our journey through the shattered suburbs of Kabul to the devastated Shamali plain. The Taliban and Northern Alliance fought over this valley for 5 years, each side destroying its villages and peppering the land with mines. Our destination was the place where the Taliban's madness reached its climax. It is perhaps the most beautiful and most tragic place in Afghanistan. Bamiyan is one of Afghanistan's most ancient and isolated cities. Until last year, it housed 2 of the world's greatest archaeological treasures, until they were destroyed by the Taliban. Now, as much as anywhere, it encapsulates the mindless destruction of the past 23 years and the shattered and divided society the war has left behind. The destruction of the Buddhas was only the culmination of the Taliban's terror. During a long siege, then a bombardment, they reduced the ancient city to rubble. Today, the former inhabitants live in the caves beside the remains of the Buddhas. They have brought all their meagre possessions, even their last livestock. Cobra bears the scars of the Taliban invasion, a deformed thumb from beatings and a torn earlobe from when the Taliban ripped off her earrings.
طالبان که زد ده دستی ما یک بچه دیگه از بغل مثل پرتو کده دو شعلان تا خانه است دیگه خود شوارم که زد بود نفسش اینطور خون سلفه میکنه برد دکتر دواش اینجا نبود که ما پول نداشتیم که دوا کنیم اوره منم ترمانده.
Aid groups like the Red Cross do what they can to stave off famine, but the aid is barely adequate. Many must travel for days by donkey to get food, and it's strictly rationed. Any who received aid before are turned away.
دروازه خورد گفتیم که بابا اینمی از غریب است از مسکین است از بیچاره است از این که کار نتونه خانه نیزی جمع است میگه نه برو نوبت نیست بابا خب بیشان دلاین بیشان نوبت دیگر کس که زور داشت.
This is the man they turn to for help. Karim Halili is the local strongman and another key member of the Northern Alliance. His forces were also accused of atrocities in the Civil War. But here too, foreign powers are competing for his allegiance. His soldiers have new American uniforms and new Iranian weapons. Outside his compound, camera-shy Special Forces soldiers wait their turn to see him.
اینا زیاد نیستن. اینا بیشتر از یک گروه 8 نفری آمریکایی‌ها بیشتر نیست و یک گروه 4 نفری 5 نفری انگلیس‌ها بیشتر نیست. بعد از سقوط بامیان که طالبان فرار کردند و بامیان در اختیار جبهه متحد قرار گرفت، اینا به خاطر کمک رسانی مواد غذایی اینا در سطح همه مردم فعلا همکاری دارند.
The American troops let us film a humanitarian aid drop called an HA on condition we not show their faces. Eight pallets of aid were dropped from a darkened plane in the dead of night amid near paranoid security. The US military handles the biggest aid drops in Afghanistan in total secrecy.
Not long ago, we had the largest HA drop in history.
Right here in Bamiyan.
Yeah?
Yeah, on this airport.
105 tons.
It was a C-7, it was huge.
Our presence here was not welcome. Earlier in the day, the same soldiers held us at gunpoint after we filmed their base. They erased our footage, but let us here as a trade-off. The food and blankets don't go to aid groups like the Red Cross or World Food Programme. The US military gives it all to the local strongman.
But this we turn over to Mr. Holy, and he distributes it.
It takes just one glance at the blankets in his compound to see that some of the aid stays with him. The rest would be useful to any strongman trying to entrench his position in the new Afghan order. Every day, the poor and hungry come to beg Halili's assistance. In the war on terror, even aid has become a political tool for propping up America's preferred regime. A regime representing men who were once called warlords. The West has fought hard to make itself safe from Afghan terror. It seems the warlords will now be left to rule in peace.